Broadcasting from the studios of WKEN, where every day it's the weekend. It's the Ken Calvert Show with your host, Ken Calvert. And if you have anything nice to say about him, keep it to yourself. And now, here's Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody. It's Ken Calvert, and welcome to the very casual studios of WKEN, where every day it's the weekend. And I can't lie to you, it is the weekend, and guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? No, it's not hump day. It's Record Store Day. Record Store Day 2019. You know, people throw things out there like, nobody, and I mean nobody, loves records more than me, except me. I love records more than anybody else in the world. Ken Calvert, you can take that to the bank. I love records, long playing, 33 1/3, the big records with the small hole in it, more than anyone else you know. So there, take that. So I started thinking about my record collection, and it goes back 45 years. Back when I first started getting albums, you'll notice I said getting. That's right, back in the day. DJs, you probably knew this, got a lot of free stuff, but it wasn't payola. Oh no, we had to sign this form every year saying that we would not accept anything that may enhance the record company's ability to get the record played on your program. But by golly, by gosh, when the record guy came by, the man or woman I should say, came by the radio station, they always came fully loaded with enough copies for all the full-timers to take one home and screen it so that they could best influence the music director and the PD to play that record. Well, they were not only the big records with the little holes, and they played at 33 1/3 RPMs, revolutions per minute. We also had not one, not two, but three turntables in the studio. Most radio studios don't have turntables anymore. Yet I find it fascinating that on days like today, people absolutely jump for joy, rant, rant, rant. I love records. I've kept all my records. I still have my TAC turntable. Well, maybe you do and maybe you don't. In my case, I do. I do still have a TAC turntable. It's up on a shelf. It's not plugged in. And I still have my records, and they are all in the basement. And to get them all upstairs someday will take a ton of work. But there are some great record stores out there. It's a great thing to celebrate. In a way, it's a sad thing to celebrate because no matter how much our love of vinyl returns, we are never going to be where we once were in terms of our collecting of the said album. Oh my God, the album comes out on Tuesday. I must be in line to get that record. I wax romantic. And I just wanted to say thank you, Record Store Day, and thank you all you record store owners. And luckily you can go to the big sites. You know what I'm talking about. Amazon and the like, and still order. And it's nice to do, and it's fun to do. You can still order a good old long-playing record album. And one of the guys that had a lot of music on a lot of different albums with a lot of different groups was a guy by the name of Paul Rodgers. Paul Rodgers and Free. Paul Rodgers and Bad Company. Paul Rodgers and The Firm. Paul Rodgers with Queen. Paul Rodgers as Paul Rodgers. Now, of all the things that I could mention about Paul Rodgers, I'm only going to use one word. Well, maybe two or three or four or five. Wonderful guy, talented guy, articulate guy, fascinating guy, interesting guy, and a funny guy. So, as opposed to ramble on and on and on, and I could, and I do, and I love to ramble, you know me, we're going to go right to Paul Rodgers. It was April of 2010, almost exactly Wow, 9 years ago. And by golly, by gosh, I say this a lot too, but I'll say it again. It is one of my favorites. So here's Paul Rodgers. Have a great evening, a great weekend. Have a great next week, and I will talk to you soon. Like me on Facebook, The Ken Calvert Show fan page, and you can follow me on Twitter at Ken Calvert Show, at Ken Calvert Show. I'll see you around, or most certainly on social media. Here's Paul Rodgers, everybody. You guys be good. Paul, how are you?
I'm fine, Ken. How are you?
Another day, another day. I was enjoying the heck out of our conversation. No, well, I guess it wasn't our conversation, was it? It was you and, well, actually me and your wife.
Yes, we need to talk. No, that was hilarious because she says, okay, thanks, bye, and hangs up. You know, I'm like, hello?
Yeah. Well, I thought I heard some rustling in the background, and I thought to myself, what the heck? I thought maybe she would hand the phone off to you, but how are you, man? Everything good?
Everything's really good, thank you. Yeah, we're getting ready for the tour, getting vamped up for that. The album, the DVD, I should say, is out, and it went and charted in the UK at number 4 on its first day, so we're very thrilled with that.
Paul, are you surprised by that success? I don't know why you would be. Come on, you're Paul Rodgers. You're Bad Company. You're Paul Rodgers. You're Free. You're Paul Rodgers. You're Queen. You're Paul Rodgers.
Oh, thank you. Oh, well, I mean, it's always really pleasure when people appreciate what you do. You know what I'm saying?
I wrote down, while I was waiting for the phone call to come in, I wrote down yesterday would have been the 46th anniversary of the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and that was a huge day in my life. And
oh yeah,
and so many different people remember exactly where they were. Now, I'm not sure. Were you a fan of the Beatles?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but see, I caught up with the Ed Sullivan Show later because I was in England at that time. I would have been about 13 when I first saw the Beatles, and they were on TV. I think there was a program called Scene at 6:30, and they played their very first single in the UK, and it was called "Love Me Do," and I was blown away instantly by them, and that was before they were. I mean, they went on to be hugely successful afterwards, and I think a lot of people saw that program and were just flipped out, really.
Now, when you think back to, and we've got a lot to cover, and I won't keep you because I know that you're a very busy person, but we have so many things I want to cover. But when you first started thinking about what you wanted to do musically in life, at what age did that occur?
Well, I was always interested in music because we always had the radio on in our house, and so music was always a background to everything. But it was things like Frank Sinatra singing, you know, "Love and Marriage," and all that corny stuff. But I used to love the echoes that they put on the vocals, and I used to listen to the music in front of for theme tunes at the cinema. Champion, the Wonder Horse, and all that, you know.
Wow.
I always was fascinated by how they seemed to be in a different world, you know, on a different planet, really. It was probably the echo that they put on the voice and the effects they had on it. But, I mean, I didn't get serious about music until, really, the Beatles, actually. I think I woke up the next day saying, right, that's it. And immediately formed a band at school. I mean, we couldn't play, but it didn't stop us. Yeah.
Now, can I ask you a question? Because I always found this fascinating. I was talking with Glenn Frey from the Eagles about this, and Glenn is from Detroit, and he was telling me that the one thing that he missed out on was the fact that those early bands, the Dave Clark Five, the Rolling Stones, maybe not the Stones so much, but certainly the Beatles, Herman's Hermits, and the Kinks, and so many others, basically wore uniforms on stage. And so when they did this latest tour, they had, you know, the Men in Black look for the first half where they wore suits.
Oh, cool.
And I thought that was really, really cool. Now, your first band the name of the band was...
Well, I mean, it depends how far back you really want to go.
All right. Your favorite name for an early
Well,
band.
I mean, we started life as, I think it was the Premiers first of all, and then we got this drummer that had been in a different band, and on the front of his kit it said the Titans, right? So right, that's it. We're the Titans now, and then I think we were the Roadrunners. Actually, when we started to do shows, and we worked working men's clubs and youth clubs and anywhere that would have us really around the area. And from then I went down to London, and we were the Wildflowers because that's the way things were. And then after that, when I met Paul Kossoff, we were Free.
Tell me a little bit about the early days of Free.
Well, it was tremendously exciting because it was a dream come true in many respects. I mean, I had all these other bands that I'd been with and all this other music that I'd played. When I came down to London, there was what was called, even though I loved the Beatles and the Stones, there was a blues boom going on, and I was very much part of that. I still do love the blues to this day. And I formed, actually, before Free, come to think of it, there was another band. In London, I formed a band called Brown Sugar, and we were playing in a blues club in Finsbury Park. And when this very long-haired guy came up to the stage just in between sets, and he said he would like to jam, and it turned out to be Paul Kossoff, and he came up with a Les Paul, and he was just brilliant, you know. To me, he was way up there with the guitarists who were heroes to me, like Eric Clapton and Peter Green at that time.
Oh, of course, Peter Green just absolutely knocked the cover off the ball, didn't he?
Yeah, I loved Peter Green, actually. Yeah. Yes, very much so. I mean, I had the pleasure of playing with Mick Fleetwood and John McVie recently, and we played some of those Peter Green songs. That
was a complete blues set, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was totally the blues. You know, I used to watch those guys at places like the Marquee and the Klux Clique in London, and just soak it up. They were just absolutely brilliant. But when I met Paul Kossoff, he came up on stage and we jammed. And one of the great things about blues is that you can just throw a song at somebody and they're likely to, I mean, it's a 12-bar blues, you're going to kind of know it. You know, once you've got the tempo and the key, you're pretty much good. And so we did Stormy Monday Blues, and we did 4 O'Clock in the Morning, B.B. King song, and Every Day of the Blues. And people actually came up to us and said that it was so amazing to hear us play together that time stood still, which was an incredible thing for anybody to say. So we kind of felt right there that we had something, and I said to Paul, we need to form a band, and that's where Free was born. Was
anybody rolling tape on that?
Oh yeah, I think we rolled tape. Nothing seriously professional, but we did roll a bit of tape. You know, and it was a lot of fun. We did. What did we do? But please don't leave me with a love that burns. And we did. What's that other one?
Well, when you were
got a black magic woman. I got a black magic woman. Even though I know Santana did a version of that, but actually Peter Green's version was the original.
Well, when you talk about Stormy Monday, give me just a little Stormy Monday. How would you handle that?
Well, they call it Stormy Monday, but I know Tuesday is just as bad.
Now, will you credit the Americans with basically being the home of the blues?
Oh, totally, yeah, absolutely. And I think really the parents really of rock and roll, because that's really, you know, when you think of blues came out of the fields really and found its way into Chicago and became electrified, and then you had bands. Buddy Waters made that transition, didn't he, from just playing an acoustic guitar to having a band, which was you know, with a drummer, a piano player, a guitar player, a harmonica player, and they just wailed, man, you know. And so much was born out of that, the soul music, and I mean, there's a touch of gospel in there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think you know, blues and rock and roll is kind of the language of of the U.S., really, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what I like about the blues is that there was really no resolution. It was just basically, I got a feeling, I got a sad feeling, I've got a good feeling. You know, you made it right, this made it wrong. I don't know where I'm going with this, but you know what I'm saying.
I think it was. It was very simple. But, you know, in the simplicity, it was also very profound in many respects. When Elmore James, I always love Elmore James, he was so unique. When he sang, what was it? You know, when things go wrong with you, it's hurting me too. Because I just think that is very deep. Because most people, if you stop and think about it, you have to love someone a lot to feel their pain.
Yeah.
I like, it was simple, but it was really profound.
Like I said, this is an honor. It's Paul Rodgers, the one, the only. And I let me just digress shortly, then we'll continue. I promise you quickly, because I know you don't have this much time to spend with a guy like me, Ken Calvert. But, Paul, let me ask you this. I think, to some extent, All Right Now is a blues song. If you go back to the early days of Free, I think All Right Now is sort of an aggregate of the blues meets a little higher tempo rock and roll.
Yeah, I often think it's really strange, and it does point it up really that perhaps one of the most commercial records ever made, in a sense, All Right Now, was really born out of the blues music that we were playing, because we used to do a song called The Hunter, which I still love to do.
Oh, you bet.
Albert King. And we could never, and we wrote all our own material, and we could never find a song that was stronger than that. And I said, we have to come up with a song that, much as I love that song, it's got to be our own song that's stronger. And perhaps if it was something that people could sing, that would be the key to it, they could sing along with. And so I said something really simple like, all right now, baby, it's... And actually, that's it. Let's use that. That's the chorus right there, and then just work backwards from there. And invented a story. And the story really is one of those, boy meets girl, and I always find that fascinating too in songwriting, because every time a man meets a woman, a boy meets a girl, it's a brand new story all over again. It doesn't matter how many times it's happened before. It's your story. It's a brand new story. And that's what's fascinating about life and music, really.
Do you remember how many takes you did for All Right Now?
Not exactly. Okay. I mean, we used to work in those days until we got the one, and then we'd probably do another one just in case, and then go, you know what, just play the one before. And we didn't do an awful lot of takes because we had been playing it live. And I like to, as far as the vocal's concerned, I like to keep it as fresh as I can. So I like to get the vocal in the first couple of takes at least. Otherwise, I'll put it to one side and go back to it, because I feel it's got to have that live spark to it.
When's the best time of the day for Paul Rodgers' voice to be in perfect? I'm not a vocalist, so I don't know. When does your voice work the best?
I think probably round about showtime is because I've done it for so long. That's the way I'm sort of geared, Mm-hmm. And I do my breathing exercises and the various things that I do during the day to be up and ready for the show. But I mean, I love to sing at any time, really. It's a joy and it's a gift, really.
Let's talk about a couple of things. First of all, you have to be awfully excited about Classic Rock Magazine's Songwriters Award that was given to you by Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck in London last November. How cool was that?
Well, it was just totally cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so nice, and it was such a great evening. There was so many great people there, and actually, Jeff was due to to give the award and to present the award, and all of a sudden, Jimmy jumped up too because they were sitting at the same table, so they both presented it, which was really, really a thrill. And then, I said, thank you very much, and I'd like to thank everybody and all of that and everything. And Jeff said to me, well, sing something from the wings. He's going like, sing something. So I did. a little bit of a cappella, and
it was?
well, you know what it was? It was I just couldn't resist going, all right now, baby. and it was a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, but when you think about your peers and you think about Jimmy Page and you think about Jeff Beck, do you get nervous around other rock stars?
I don't know really that I get nervous. I mean, it's a pleasure that to say that to call them my friends really, and we've worked together and we've played together, and so that means we've had musical conversations and exchanged ideas. And, you're not really awed by each other, but I am awed by their ability. I mean, when Jimmy and I had the firm together, it was awesome to be on the same stage with him when he would unleash the thing that he's got going, and just let it rip. And it would just take the roof off the place. So I mean, when you see that in action, it's something to see.
I got to tell you, Radioactive to this day remains one of my favorite all-time songs.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I mean, it probably isn't for you, but just because of the fact that I'm in radio. And again, it's Paul Rodgers, my guest on the live line. The Bad Company, All Right Now, free Paul Rodgers Queen live line. And nothing can beat this, because you have always been so kind to not only the city of Detroit. You have donated money and your time to the Children's Leukemia Foundation. You have done so many things, and I don't know why you managed to be such a wonderful, kind human being, but thank you for doing that.
Well, hey, that's very nice of you to say so.
Well, Paul, I want to thank you so much. I always end with this question because it's just what I do. If you were to tell a new listener to classic rock radio, aside from anything that features Paul Rodgers, okay, you cannot participate. It can't be one of yours. You would tell them to pick up which album and listen to it from beginning to end. The album would be...
Ooh, there are so many. I mean, I recently got the Beatles box set, the new box set. That would be cool to listen to. That's a lot of music, but that would be one to pick up.
Did you watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I did, actually.
And what did you think of Daltrey and Townsend?
I thought they were great. I thought they were fantastic. I loved the light show, and they did it in the round, of course. It was spectacular.
Daltrey is kind of like going through some sort of an epiphany about it, because he didn't think it was all that great. He did not like the mashup of the songs. Yeah, he thought, unfortunately, it should have been, a longer show. You only get 12 minutes. Is that something you would ever consider doing?
Well, yeah, I think definitely so. I mean, because, like they said in their interviews, you reach so many people in such a short space of time. And I mean, I think perhaps I think it'll dawn on him at a later point just how much impact it has had. Because watching it, I mean, I can still see it in my mind's eye. The lighting was the greatest lighting I think I ever saw.
I think they borrowed that stage from ELO back in 1983.
Oh, Pink Floyd, maybe, huh?
Yeah, me. Paul, I will let you go. Thank you so much. Hey, I got to ask a question, very selfishly. Shooting Star, greatest song in my world.
Oh, thank you, man.
All right. The acoustic version that you did.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I thank you.
Because you mentioned the Beatles. Love Me Do, I think it was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Any Queen activity coming up?
It's gone quiet on that front. I mean, I realized that I'd spent, 4 years with the guys, and I wanted to move away and do some, and not be touring full on for 3 months, to be honest with you. So we've left it there, and we're open to doing. I'm open to doing things, maybe some charity work, or if Nelson Mandela calls us, or something like that.
Paul Rodgers, you are the greatest guy. I am not worthy. I'm Wayne Campbell. You are the greatest guy I've ever chatted with, my friend.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I can never do anything to return the favor, but thank you.
Well, you just did.
All right.
Thank you. I'm touched.
All right, and tell my Canadian friend, because I'm half Canadian.
Are you really?
Yes, I am.
All right.
And tell her that sometime down the road our schedules shall meet.
Okay.
All right,
I'll tell her that. It sounds great.
Thank you, Paul Rodgers.
All right, Ken.
Be well, my friend.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
You can subscribe to the Ken Calvert Show podcast on Apple iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, or iHeartRadio. It's also available by going directly to www.thekencalvertshow.com. You can reach Ken at kencalvertpodcast@gmail.com. The preceding program is the property of Ken Calvert and may not be broadcast without the written permission of Ken Calvert, unless you want your name.